Hi, it's Dockerty. I'm an angling coach from near Doncaster and I'm here at Larford Lakes where I've recently just won the Golden Rod Final. So I'm going to talk you through the tips and tricks and how I went about doing it. So, a little bit of background on the event first. The Golden Rod's a two-day event. It's feeder only and you spend a day on both the specimen lake here, which I'm sat on, and the match lake, which is over there. Like I said, it's feeder only, so any bait that is introduced has to be through a feeder. So this is going to affect how you fish and it influences the approaches on the day, which we're going to go into later on. This is one of the big four prestigious events what us match anglers like to qualify for throughout the year, along with Fishermania, Maven Match This and the sister event, the Golden Reel competition. Leading up to the event, I spent 4 days at the venue practicing in order to get to grips with the tactics and the lines needed to do well in the competition for the weekend. So, on to the day one draw. I'm sat on the peg here. It was Golden Rod peg 13, which is on the specimen lake, which permanent peg number is probably around the mid-20s, with your back to the match lake towards the island end of the lake. During the week practicing, I found out a few key things which were very important to the weekend. I found it important not to target too many areas of the peg, with 4 lines being my go-to approach for it. The 7 metre line, the 16 metre line, a longer line towards the middle of the lake for the carp, and if needed, a get out of jail line down the edge. At the start of the match, before feeding anywhere else in the peg, myself, as well as most of the other anglers on the bank, started around 7 or 8 metres out to try catch an early bonus carp, which in this lake they go in excess of 20 pounds. Unfortunately, like most of the other anglers on the lake, I didn't catch this bonus early carp. So as a result of that, I've had to change my plan slightly, and after 20 minutes, I've then fed my skimmer line. To kick off this 16 metre line, I fed 5 big feeding feeders full of ground bait and micros. In practice, I found that after feeding that shorter line, by having a look longer, approximately 40 metres or so, you could often nick an occasional carp. However, this wasn't the case, and after around half an hour or so, I was onto the 16 metre line looking to target the skimmers. So I'm now around 40-45 minutes into the match, and I've had a look on this line where I've fed the skimmers. I've started on a method style feeder with a 5mm yellow dynamite wowser. As in practice, this was by far the best hook bait if there was the better stamped skimmers in the peg. I then caught steadily on this line for around an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes or so, with 12 ounce to a pound skimmers with an odd better one, 2 to 3 pound thrown in. This kept me ticking along steadily away. Adam on the end peg was catching well, and the peg to my right had had 1 bonus carp, but the section was rather level at this point. As the match progressed, I soon realised that a change was needed. I swapped from the method style feeder to a standard cage feeder to allow me to feed ground bait, maggots and worms if needed, to try draw some more fish into the peg as I was waiting longer for bites. I stayed on this line until roughly just over an hour to go, at which point it was important to prime the lines which were going to give me the chance to catch a big bonus carp in the last half hour, 40 minutes of the match. The last hour, as is the case with many matches, is extremely important. This is the point, especially when fishing for big carp, you can go from absolutely nowhere in the match to winning your section, or even winning the match in some cases. With the weather being so changeable and the water clearer than normal, I didn't want to rely too heavily on my edge line. So I fed both that as a throwaway line and also the one that I was going to focus on, a 7 metre line. This would allow me to keep an eye on both Adam on the end peg and the guys to the other side to see if those edges were going to produce. Although it was looking unlikely, with only 1 carp caught in the section, it was imperative that I kept the faith and gave myself that chance of that late fish to really push me up the section. With 15 minutes to go, I've sat there patiently, and as in practice, it's gone round with one of the largest specimens here in the lake at Larford. I've netted this fish with just 3 minutes of the match remaining. It went probably over 15 pounds, which was crucial to winning the section, with myself having 38 pounds Adam on the end having 36, as well as I think 3 other weights in excess of £30. This gave me the perfect start to the 2-day final, winning my section on the first day, meaning I was in contention going into day 2. On to day 2, and I've drawn golden rod peg 2 on the match rake, which is permanent peg 5. Although not an end peg, I'm not a million miles off, so there's always a chance for a few fish. The match lake was a complete contrast to the specimen lake, with big weights needed of carp and F1s to do well in your section, and weights in excess of over £100. In practice, it was clear that a positive approach was needed, with a 7-metre line, 2 margin lines if needed, and also, due to just one bank being pegged, fishing across to the far bank in the shallow water was going to be key to doing well on this lake. At the start of the match, similarly to day 1, I've just started around 7 to 8 metres from the bank just to see if there are any fish hanging close to the edges, maybe eating some of the bait that had been deposited the day before. After around 15-20 minutes on this line, I've had an F1 and 2 skimmers, showing me this was not the area of the peg to target at this point in the match. So quickly, I've changed and gone across to the far bank and had a bit of success doing so. Due to the far bank being in excess of 50 to 60 metres in some places, the correct setup was key to being able to be accurate and hit the target regularly. A 12-foot rod matched with a 45-gram feeder meant I could be accurate and place my feeder exactly where I needed to against the far bank grass. As in practice, it was crucial that feeder hit the far bank quietly, without crashing into the water, displacing your bait from the feeder and causing all sorts of problems. By feathering the feeder in, it meant my bait remained with the feeder and gave myself the best chance of a bite off one of the Larford carp that often hug the far bank on the match lake. I stayed on this line for approximately 2 hours, all the while keeping a close eye on Charlie Simpson on the end peg. Now Charlie is a fantastic angler, having won this event himself in the past. Again, as in practice, it was important not to pick this edge line up too early, to allow the carp to gain confidence and gather in numbers before you would catch a really good run later on in the session. After priming this line with around 2.5 hours to go, and just seeing the occasional 1 or 2 fish coming into the peg, finally with around 2 hours of the match remaining, they started to grow in confidence, and 3, 4, 5 fish at a time were coming into the peg, and at this point it was time to pick the edge rod up. By fishing ground bait around a small method feeder and 2 dead maggots on the hook, the pegs just got stronger and stronger, to be honest, with great big carp coming in, as well as numbers of F1s in excess of 2 to 3 pound, which really helped me top my weight up. After catching really well for the latter stages of the match, I estimated I had approximately 140 to 150 pound. Come the weigh-in, I was delighted to weigh 190 pounds. This weight was just enough to put Charlie in the section and push Adam Wakeling into 3rd. The icing on the cake was, when I got back to the results, I found out I had won the match on the 2nd day, and as a result, had a perfect 2-point score, meaning I had won the 2021 Golden Rod title. This final has taught me 2 key parts that I will take forward into my own fishing. The first being that preparation is vital in terms of hooks, rigs, tackle. Ensuring you have the gear that you need to compete with some of the country's best is crucial. And secondly, there is no substitute to practice. You can have all the tackle in the world. If you don't put the time into practicing, you will not see the benefit come match day.